How's it going? Dave from Comic Book Investments. I got right here one of the rarest Spawn comics ever made. Now, I did that video on the King Spawn, the retail and variant that you had to get to. Man, it's so tough. Buy 250 of the regular editions to get the special edition variant, and turned out that 500,000 copies were ordered of the normal, so it made the King Spawn variant. I think there's about 1,700, slightly under 7, like 1,697 of the variant made. This paper. My keys. And so it turned out not to be that rare. Okay, cool. I got some, what is this? Looks like, make sure the actual comic's there. Is it? Okay, good. The real comic is there. Some tape everywhere. Okay, so I got some free comics here. Sometimes people do that. They just throw in some free stuff. Just some cool stuff. But yes, what I got here. So Spawn, before he appeared in Spawn number 1, he appeared in Malibu Sun 13. He's on the cover there. And this was just kind of like a book that, look, it has Spawn on the inside right there. And it just goes through different comics that are coming out. Spawn had a massive spread in here, along with talking a bunch about Spawn. He's on the centerfold, has other stuff in here about random comic book companies and whatnot. But anyways, so what makes this is pretty rare. It was just like more of a small little comic thing. I think it was more of a promotional piece than anything. But yeah, just talking about it, says new products, information, and licensing opportunities. So it wasn't really something you would go out and buy, probably given to comic shops to look at. But there's something also special about this one compared to the other ones. This one is the green variant back cover. What happened with this is there's an error in printing these, and they printed it with all this green ink, or I think is lack thereof red ink is what it's supposed to be. So they print the green, and then I think they print red over it. I'm not exactly sure how the printing process works. I'll show you guys. But yes, this is super rare. You can find them, so it's not like they only made one. But it is one of the rarest Spawn comics there are, because there's an error. They also have an error cover of Spawn number 1 that they didn't have. I think the black ink wasn't printed properly. And so that's pretty rare of an error cover. One of the rarest Spawn comics of all time, though, that's just a normal, is, I believe, 185. There's a sketch variant that is super rare. I think they said they only made like 50 copies of that. So that's super rare. And generally issues like in the 200s to like the 280s or something like that, it had very low print runs, and some of them had retailer variants where it'd be like 1 in 10, 1 in 25. So they only made a couple hundred to maybe 1,000 of those variants in there. So those are all pretty rare. I don't know how many exactly exist of this one, but a lot of them are going to be kind of trashy because people back in 1992 didn't think about, hey, yeah, a promotional cover of some random character named Spawn is going to be worth a lot in the future. So it's kind of like that Miles Morales in, I have a couple copies of it. Not the Ultimate Fallout 4. It's Ultimate something 95. I'm blanking on the name. I'll put it down below if I can remember. But yeah, let's check this out. Let's see how rare it is. Let's see how many there are at CGC that have been graded and kind of see what the value is and things like that. Okay, so let's dive into the numbers a little bit. So I have up here is the Gpa Analysis, kind of gives you price ranges and things like that of what they go for. As you can see, recently in August, a 9.8 non-variant sold for $3,200. The Air Edition and a 9.6 sold for $4,000. Now the most previous one was in March, a 9.6 sold for $1,300. So as you can see, it's about a 3 to 4 times difference. So if you're looking at a 9.8, it's the Air green ink version. You're looking at about 3, maybe 4 times this price right here, this $3,200. They're pretty rare. So we look at the CGC census, we can see, okay, so this is for the normal edition. We got 41 at a 9.8 and 22 also at a 9.8 that are signed. So for the normal edition, we got 63, so quite a bit. We have a total of 552 that are graded, 422 are universal, 128 are signed, we got 1 restored. Now, usually a lot of times people will send in comics and say they get like a 9.4, like, oh, it's not a 9.4, it's at least a 9.6. Say they send it 2 or 3 times and they finally get that 9.6 that they want. Well, now there's a bunch on the census that actually don't belong there. So CGC, unless you send them back the label, CGC doesn't take them off. So this 422 might actually only be like 380 or something like that. So let's look at the Air Edition. The Air Edition, we got 3. We got 1 that's a universal and 2 that are signed. In a 9.6, we got 1 that's a universal and 3 that are signed. So very, very rare. We got a total of 73, 22 signed, 51 unsigned. So not that many. Not that many. And there's probably a few more that exist in the wild, but I don't think it's, maybe you have if everyone graded theirs, you might hit 100, maybe 150. But beyond that, I don't think you're hitting much higher than that. Mine will probably be in the 7.5 to the 8 range, I'm guessing. So kind of on the lower end. But if we look back here at the GPA, we can kind of see what they're kind of worth and what the trend is. So let's look at this 9.2, for example. In 2019, it averaged $241. Now it's up to averaging $780. So you're looking at 3, almost, a little over 3 times. Here, same thing, 147 2019. Now they're selling for $700. That was the regular edition. The Air Edition, since they're so rare, it's just kind of all over the place. So the Air Edition is like you got 1 in the last 2 years that sold for $1,900. Look, it's just like 2013, 2016, 2018, 2020. Very rarely sell, but in the last, from 2018 to 2020, it doubled. Every 2 years it looks like it's doubled. Let's see, here we go. We got a little more in the 8.5 range, a lot more common. From 1 year, it went up a little bit. Doubled from 2020 to 2021, thereabouts. So yeah, I would say safely that, this is in maybe the $1,500 range, maybe the $2,000 range, the one I have. Somewhere in there, it depends what grade it comes back. Because these are all going up and Spawn is continuing, to get more and more popular, especially these rare issues of Spawn. So let's look at eBay. Let's see what's available out there. Let's see what you can get. All right, so 9.8. Like I said, there's a ton though at a 9.8 at the regular edition. Let's see if there's any error. We got a couple. These are ours right here. Let's see. I don't see any error. Like I said, they're really rare, and then they don't come up that often. I've had 2 in the past. I don't see any that are the error cover. Nope, none. I mean, even the Malibu is not, I mean, it has what, like maybe 15, 20 up there? Yeah, not that many. Yeah, so it's like you're really not going to find one if you're really searching. It's like you only have a couple opportunities a year to buy them. That's why they go for so much. So if I put mine up, let's say it comes back in 8.0. All right, let's start there. All right, so I'm looking. Let's look at the most recent sales. You got a 4.5. That's not going to help me. That's not going to help me. It's too old. The best where to start is probably in the 8.5 range. You got August sold for $17.25. But again, you also had one that sold for $20.27 and $19.00 earlier that year. This is probably an auction price. That's a very odd buy it now price. So if I look at the trend, if I go back last year, they're selling for about $1,000 to $500, somewhere in there, pretty much doubling. I would assume that it's going to continue going up. And if you look at all the arrows point to yes, it's going up. I could probably price this at like $2,000 to even above $2,000, and I could probably get someone to buy it, right? Just because it's super rare. Like, you have no competition. So I would probably put up this, I don't know exact price, I'll see where it comes back as, but somewhere over $2,000, and I'm guarantee I'll sell it. Even though someone's looking at it, it's like, oh, well, an 8.5 sold for like $1,700. I'll be like, okay, go find an 8.5 for $1,700. You're not going to. So the only way that someone's going to want it is they're going to have to pay slightly more. It's when you have super rare books, you can price them like that because you're the only one. Everyone has to come to you. But when you have a common book, let's say I had a normal edition. That's not super common, but let's say I have a normal edition, which I do, right? I have to compete with all these other ones. Well, this one's in an auction, so who knows what that would price at. But it's like, if I have a 9.2, I have to price it here. I think I even have a 9.2. No, I have a 9.4 and 9.6. I have to be competitive with all these other prices if I want to sell it. Now, if I feel like it's going to go up, maybe I price it a little higher because I don't care, because I know that eventually this is going to go higher and higher and higher. So it's called pricing at tomorrow's prices. But if I want to sell it, like if I have a 7.5 right here and I want to sell it, well, I'm going to have to price it around what this guy prices at. And because I have all this competition, then there's an 8.5, there's a 9.2 CBCS, 8.0 signed, like all this other competition. So that's kind of how you have to go about pricing things, is you have to think about what other competition there is out there. So yeah, all right. As always, link to my website below, collectorscomics.com. Also link to my music. And if you like this kind of stuff, please think about subscribing. It'd really help me out. All right, thanks.